Houston Rockets fans really thought that Steph Curry was not going to get his in these NBA playoffs. They just thought Amen Thompson was going to shut him down every single game. Matchup number one, Curry goes for 31. Jimmy Butler plays the perfect Robin, and the Warriors, a little too close for comfort, but they are up 1-0 in this series. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Warriors.
Stop trying to turn the page on us so fast.
Your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
We got 4 championships.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Every team has a chance if Steph's on the team.
Your team every day.
What is the good word, everyone? Welcome into Locked On Warriors. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Houston, you have a problem. It's that you're down 1-0 in this series, and you only put up 85 points on the Golden State Warriors, 95-85, the final score. We're free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts. You can check us out on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube and you're a new channel subscriber, if you're not a subscriber, definitely hit that subscribe button. Hop in the comments, leave your thoughts, and give us a thumbs up. We very much appreciate it. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and right now, new customers get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. My name, Charlie Walter, formerly at 95.7 The Game in the Bay Area. That's the flagship station of the Golden State Warriors. Also covered the team in their title run for CBS News Bay Area. We have the three-man weave today, starting with our one man. It's Kylan Mills. You remember her from Cron 4, NBC Sports Bay Area. She's also covered the team for many outlets and works at the Big Ten Network right now. Matt Kolsky, the other guest on today's show, formerly of KNBR 95.7 The Game. We're here to break down all things Golden State Warriors. Man, this team needs a case study on why they cannot hang on to leads. The sloppy basketball comes back, the careless turnovers, the inability to stop Houston, specifically Steven Adams, really changed the course of this game when his size came into play. Şengün was awesome, but you can rely on a couple of things. One, Steph Curry, 31 in the game. Two, playoff Jimmy. He's real, 25, and played much better than just the points say. And three, I don't know whether you can always rely on it, but you'll absolutely take some Moses Moody stones down the stretch. He hits big bucket after big bucket. Kylan, let's start with you. What were kind of the defining moments from this game that really made you feel like the Warriors were able to sneak this one out?
It was that second quarter run for me, Chuck. That's where the Warriors defense took over this game. Not just were they getting stops in that first 6 minutes of the second quarter, they also were forcing turnovers. It was 5 steals for the Dubs, and that allowed them to get out in transition. You're going up against the trees. You don't have the most size. Get those bunnies on the other end by playing good defense. Like I said, not just stops, so really being disruptive and getting the Rockets out of their offensive system and then stealing the basketball. To me, that was the difference during that stretch, which I think it was an 18-3 or 2 run when it was all said and done for the Dubs. Then once you have that separation, it's about protecting the lead, managing the game. Yes, there were definitely some turnover concerns in the third quarter, but then the other thing that you saw in the fourth was playoff Jimmy and the fact that the Dubs now have 2 closers. You've got Steph Curry, a guy who you know can come through in the clutch, but now you also have Jimmy Butler. So when teams are double and tripling, draping Steph, face guarding him, whatever they want to throw at him, you have another option. And a guy who can score in a different way, I think, is also crucial because Jimmy, the mid-range master, was on display tonight. It's ridiculous stuff. And again, a guy who can just play physical, someone who can score in the paint, which the Warriors have not had. No offense, Draymond Green and Kevon Looney. I think we all know that, the writing is on the wall. Those two are, if you feed it to them inside, the defense is not collapsing and going crazy. And Jimmy Butler can draw defensive attention inside the paint, or he can go up and score through traffic. I mean, the guy's ridiculous through contact. So those are the 2 things that stood out to me. I think the way that Steph and Jimmy showed up huge in that fourth quarter. In addition to, you mentioned, I thought Moses Moody hit a couple of big shots with that corner 3 with a minute to go. And then he had a fadeaway mid-range shot with a couple minutes left when the Rockets were really starting to close the gap. It was late in the shot clock. I thought that was a clutch shot. And when you have Jimmy and Steph playing the way they were playing, like, that's all you need from your role players. Yeah. Just do enough. Just hit timely baskets. And so I'm really encouraged by what we saw from the Dubs during that defensive stretch, especially in the second quarter, and then closing out this game, hitting some big shots.
Kolsky, Batman and Robin, man. We heard the theme again after the game where on the TNT broadcast, Jimmy comes out and says, that's Batman for you. Sometimes he just falls from a building and ruins your dreams. That's what Batman does. And I'm just here to, provide enough support for Steph and protect this man at all costs. So when we do win an NBA championship, I like to think that I can help, but Steph Curry is going to be the one that gets the job done. How about the fact that Rockets fans were so confident in them just having the size, the switchability, the length, the versatility, and the face guarding capabilities from Thompson to where they legit thought that Steph Curry was going to be bottled up this entire series? That was debunked game one.
You're not going to have another 3-point Steph Curry game. Sorry, I just had to say that. Good to see you, Kolsky.
How can Rockets fans fall for that again? Like, you guys have been here before, unless you just joined up. Like, what's happening here? He's done this to you enough times. Like, somebody look up Steph Curry's playoff stats in Houston. He eviscerates them for fun. It's, I guess Amen Thompson is a legitimately exciting player who has a great future in this league, but it's not the future yet. And I would say the same about a lot of these Rockets guys. And for me, what you just said, Kylan's second takeaway, that's the big thing for me tonight. Look, the Warriors didn't play great. There were a lot of problems with tonight's game. Kylan mentioned the turnovers. You're not going to win a lot of NBA playoff games in 2025 with 95 points, but the Rockets are not in their class. And they do not have answers in the half court to deal with the Warriors' defense. And they just really don't have anybody. I mean, tonight was a very on-brand performance for a team that self-professes to be led emotionally by Dillon Brooks. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know what else to tell you. That's what's going to happen when Dillon Brooks is your guy. He's an unserious basketball player, and ultimately, the Rockets were not a serious playoff team in tonight's game. And it's a bummer that the Warriors didn't blow them out, because they really should have. But on the other hand, it's kind of a treat, because the fact that the game was close in the fourth quarter means we get to see the thing that if the Warriors have any shot at doing some damage in this year's playoffs, that's the difference maker. It's Steph Curry and it's Jimmy Butler in the fourth quarter. And I can't believe Jimmy had us all wondering if playoff Jimmy was going to happen. It's definitely happening.
Right in front of our eyes. That's what consistently happens with this man. It doesn't make any sense how every single season he'll have regular season games where he'll put up 4 shots and score 6 points, and then the playoffs roll around. He plays 42 minutes. He goes 10 of 19, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, 25 points, and a remarkable plus 14 in the game, only fouling once. That's a topic that I want to bring up, is the physicality that the refs allowed in this game, minus a couple minutes of the third quarter to start, where they called 5 fouls in 1 minute. Aside from that, like, they're hand slapping balls. They're, people poking the ball away from behind. There's a lot of reaching going on, a lot of grabbing, and not a ton of it getting called. And I thought that's how the Warriors played a little different than they did the last time these two teams matched up, specifically from their leader, Steph Curry, on defense. I thought he was getting real physical with Jalen Green. He played awesome. And it was a case of, like, Steph basically saying, look, if this is how they're going to play me, I'm going to play them the same way and make the Zebras call it. And they didn't, Kylan.
Yeah, I think that definitely was a factor in the loss. I mean, I think last time they played Houston, this team was all up in Steph's grill, and there were a lot of calls that did not go Golden State's way. I actually thought that last game especially was not a well-officiated game. Just, I'm going to say, I don't like to always point at the refs and losses, but I think that they let a lot go on Steph Curry in that game where the Rockets held him to just 3 points. I think that was a major factor. Here's the thing for me. I don't know if it's as much about the physicality for me in terms of what the Rockets are doing defensively, as much as I think that the Warriors are able to adapt. And I thought they handled the pressure really well. I think there were stretches of the game where we saw concerns in terms of the turnovers, and that's where you see the Rockets playing really physical. But I think the offense has to be adaptable. And one thing that stood out that I liked is the fact that the Rockets early on went with a really big lineup, and the Dubs struggled for a period of time where they were, and the same thing, honestly, in the third quarter. That's one of my biggest concerns actually moving forward in the series, is not necessarily how it's being called, but the physicality on the glass for me is the big issue, because when the Rockets went on that huge run in the third quarter, I mean, there were multiple possessions where they weren't just getting 1 O board, they're getting 2 O boards, 3 O boards. You can't give this team 3 opportunities to score the basketball. You just can't do it against a good team in a playoff series.
They suck at shooting, but when they get one of, they
Correct.
get 3 opportunities, eventually you're going to hit one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think that, and we know this is a great offensive rebounding team. We know it's a great rebounding team, but the Dubs hung with them actually last time they played, because that was something I was looking back at the last couple box scores. And I think the Warriors actually did a good job. Like they were almost dead even in rebounding. The problem was Steph Curry only scored 3 points. But this time around, that was my big concern. It wasn't necessarily the physicality in terms of the face guarding. I think the Warriors were able to work around the pressure, maybe dealt with some turnovers that were unnecessary. But I think for me, more it's the physicality on the glass. And if they're going to let a lot go, the Dubs have to play tougher. I have to put a body on someone. I thought that there were moments where Quentin Post was a little too soft when he was in the game, whether it was going up for O boards or that one dunk stuck with me. I'm like, man, you got to go up harder than that. Was it the first or second quarter? And the fact of the matter is the Dubs don't have a dominant physical big. So like, how are you going to deal with the way this Houston Rockets team rebounds the basketball when you don't have a dominant big? I think that could be the big concern moving forward in the series, because Houston didn't shoot the ball well. You mentioned when they start shooting the ball well, and then they're also getting their own misses. I think that's where the Dubs could run into some trouble. They've got to deal with that physicality on the glass.
You mentioned the physicality, though, and this is what I want to tee you up for when we come back, Kolsky. Draymond Green guarding Şengün in the game. Şengün got his. He was unstoppable early, but I did think the Warriors' interior did a really good job on a Rockets team that a lot of the public thought was going to give Warriors a ton of issues down low, and I thought the Warriors at times gave the Rockets some issues down low when Steven Adams was not in the game. That completely changed things. We'll discuss this coming up on Locked on Warriors.
And most importantly, he a dog.
We need more dogs.
Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. It's a playoff season, and it means big performances and even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for DashPass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, DashPass members will score a 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more. Use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and the combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms apply. So here's the play. Sign up for DashPass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50-plus at a playoff game, DashPass members can grab that free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 order or more and code WINGSTOP50. That's DashPass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms do apply.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
All right. Warriors get the win 95-85 over the Rockets. I will say this. I was scared early. Draymond Green picks up a foul 17 seconds into the game. Şengün looked unstoppable. Rockets were getting the 3 opportunities to score. Thompson was all over Curry. The Warriors role players were missing shots. So I was scared early. Then I was like, you know what? I said Warriors in 6, maybe Warriors in 5. And then it almost bit me in the ass. I was terrified late. But again, the Warriors able to weather every storm. The Rockets threw their way. And what felt like, hey, the Warriors just need to bleed this thing out and win this game. You know, they need to make the Rockets essentially run out of time. By the end of it, it's like we could go another 20 minutes. I think the Warriors are going to hang on for the entire 20. Like that's just kind of what it was for Golden State. Every time Houston got within 3, the Warriors would hit some big buckets. We talked about Curry's masterpiece on Jalen Green. Kolsky, thoughts on the defense on Alperen Şengün? Numbers-wise, he was great. He had 26. He had 9 boards in the game, but he was a -7 out there. And there were some moments there in the second half where I thought Draymond made him look kind of uncomfortable with that little, what do you even want to call it? Like the floater fadeaway, one-handed, like what the hell is that shot, man? It's like Tim Duncan.
Yeah, it is a little Duncan-y. He's Şengün is really good, man.
He's really good. Yeah.
They can't really guard him. You know, Draymond's he does such an incredible job in so many ways, but physically he's no match for that guy. He's doing it with he had one play where he stood him up on an attempted post that I think is going to make a great highlight. For the most part, when Şengün got it below the free throw line, he was buckets. And why didn't that carry more weight for the Rockets? Well, Alperen Şengün was 11 for 18 tonight. Dillon Brooks, Jalen Green, and Fred VanVleet combined to shoot 10 for 43.
Ew.
So, why are
And that's
those
just
guys?
who they are. That's who they are, Kolsky.
Well, I mean, to an extent, but you can't let the big guy have some more touches. You can't run I don't know. Thank goodness they didn't, because he seemed to get most of what he wanted most of the night. But the thing about Draymond, and especially with Butler out there, is that even when someone can beat you consistently one-on-one, they're throwing so many weird off-ball dives, double teams, like that. They are mucking it up to an extent that, like, it's harder to spam a working option than it would be against a normal defensive team, right? You think Sengun's 11 for 18, why didn't he shoot it 25 times? Well, like, there's just weird stuff going on all the time, and it's not as simple as just posting up and feeding the post, and you're going to be able to get it into him every time, especially when the guys getting it into him are largely young or silly basketball players. So, these are all ways in which the Warriors benefit from their experience and Houston's lack of experience. The concern, as you guys mentioned, is I'm going to do some more adding up of stats, okay? The Warriors
How many offensive
bench,
rebounds? Was it 23 for the Rockets in the
22
game?
offensive rebounds for the Rockets. Yeah. But here's the problem for me. The starters actually rebounded reasonably well. On the bench, Quentin Post, Buddy Hield, Kevon Looney, Guy Santos combined for four guys, 4 rebounds. And other than Peyton, that's the whole bench that played. And, like, okay, we're 17 minutes in. I think it's fair at this point to mention that you have a guy on your bench getting a DNP who averaged 21 points and 7 rebounds against this team this year.
Just don't say his name, please.
I'm not gonna, and there's no point talking about it, because obviously he might as well not be on the team right now. But I will say, like, no one's gonna be able to convince me that you made a pure basketball decision when you have a guy who's been great in this matchup, who does the things that you needed done in the third quarter while your lead was slipping away, and you left him on the bench. Like, it's not basketball. I don't know what it is, but it's not basketball.
Well, here's the thing.
They're clearly, if I can hop in real quick, Chuck, before we toss it back to you, there are clearly issues going on behind the scenes. I mean, there has been nothing smooth about this unnamed player's tenure with the Golden State Warriors. And I thought the same thing that Kolsky. I mean, clearly, this is a player who's done well in this matchup and who does execute all the things that you're lacking right now on the floor. Just doing a hit, Chuck, with our Locked On Today host, like, that's something other people are asking as well. Like, people outside that are NBA fans are like, well, what's going on? Why would you not be playing someone who has that kind of size, athleticism, good rim protecting against what the Rockets have in their front court? And it doesn't, and the versatility and the length that they have, not just the front court. And clearly it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up based on skill set. And I know he's been injured times this year, but he's healthy. And there's obviously something going on. We're seeing these reports swirling around that he's not going to be with the Dubs next year.
I think it's as simple as this. Like, Kerr said it. I tried to fit him in with Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is now significantly better than Jonathan Kaminga. Agree? Yes, we all agree. Like, there's no question. And Jimmy Butler's playing 42 minutes. And Kerr said, look, he's not good on the floor with Jimmy. So
but that's a lie. He's lying. He's got Gary Payton and Guy Santos and come on, man. Like, Gary Payton, who doesn't even
look.
They're winning. Kevon Looney. No, again. It is what it is. But he's full of it, and I think everybody loses credibility when you lie through your teeth and say things that don't make sense. And to the people on the chat talking about defense, Kevon Looney had guys running circles around him and jumping over his head for rebounds tonight, and he still played 9 minutes. Like, is Jonathan Kaminga a defender on the level of Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler? Of course not. Gary Payton? No. Buddy Hield? Yeah. Much better defensively than Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield was on the floor for more than 10 minutes tonight, giving you nothing. Yeah. So,
yeah, don't get me started on that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like
they should have traded him at the deadline. It's that simple. Because at this point, you kind of wasted an asset, and that was the talk. Like, with the Durant trade, if that was going to go down, it was going to involve Jonathan Kaminga. And you would love to have Andrew Wiggins right now because, he'd not be getting DNPs, but that's not the way the money worked out. And it's an unfortunate situation. But at the end of the day, until he actually checks into a basketball game, he's irrelevant. He's irrelevant now. He's irrelevant in the future. It is what the situation is.
Right.
And the
He's not
situation right
irrelevant,
now is
though,
the Warriors have a
typically.
1-0 lead.
This
And
is important,
whether
though.
he's
not
whether
irrelevant, Chuck.
whether
because-
he's relevant or not it'll be seen down the road because he's never been relevant for the Golden State Warriors in winning basketball games. He hasn't. Jimmy Butler comes in, they immediately win games.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler's better than Jonathan Kaminga. I don't think anyone's debating that. But the idea that he's never helped them win is not true. And there have been multiple stretches of his career when he's gotten consistent playing time and he has helped them win. And it's also again, Steve Kerr is doing like a very clever thing by pointing out real flaws in Kaminga's game and saying that they don't fit with Jimmy Butler, but he's playing guys with the same flaws with Jimmy Butler. So it's not true. That's not the reason he's not playing.
All right, enough about JK. Enough about JK and more about JB.
You guys got away from the unnamed player thing real fast. You got me laughing.
The BJ era, the before Jimmy era, excuse me, the BB era before Butler was it was interesting, right? There were so many flaws with this team. A lot of them were late in games. Like before Jimmy Butler, the Warriors probably lose this game because they don't have that calming presence when the Rockets make a 23-8 second half run. And now you just put the ball in his hands and it is so calming the way that he's able to get it done. Kylan, has he shocked you at all? Because I know both you two watched him a lot when he was on the Bulls. I was more a Jimmy Butler highlight kind of guy. Wasn't watching a ton of Heat, wasn't watching a ton of Sixers. I was, Kolsky, you had me locked up producing your shows. I had to, know everything about the Warriors. I wasn't keeping my tabs on Butler aside from statistics and highlights, like I said. But when you actually have him on your team and you watch him every single night, it kind of stuns me that he's only a 6-time All-Star. Like, I feel like he's underrated. He's so damn good.
Yeah, but I think it's all the other things that have come with Jimmy Butler and some of his tenures at various organizations.
Fair.
I was a huge fan, though, of the Bulls. And obviously, I'm from Chicago. So I remember when he got drafted in his rookie year. And I think right away coming in, he showed that he could play defense in the league. I remember that's kind of the first thing that stood out when I watched him play. He was still trying to gain confidence and figure out how to find his shot going up against bigger guys that you face in the NBA compared to the college level. But like he showed that he was pretty gritty. He was tough. I remember even his rookie season in limited minutes, like he was still getting boards. He was still defending guys. And now you've seen the development on the offensive side in terms of his confidence. Like I said, I don't know many players who can score in, I don't know about the variety of ways, but just he's so masterful in the mid-range and then also being able to post players up. And then he hits the three ball well enough to where he's not a detriment on the floor that guys are like sagging way off him, like maybe a Draymond Green. Although I shouldn't really say that because Draymond suddenly, last year was a 40% three-point shooter, but it's the ugliest shot I've ever seen. I digress. But I don't know that I'm surprised by what we've seen from Jimmy Butler. I mean, this is a guy who I think needed a change of scenery. Clearly things went south in South Beach, but he has a renewed sense of urgency from when he's come to the Warriors. I know it's been a little bit hot and cold during the regular season, but at the end of the day, the Dubs have one of the best records since trading for Jimmy Butler, and he's shown up in the key games like this one that we just witnessed in a playoff situation. So I'm really excited. Like I said, I just think he's a great compliment. I've been saying this since he got traded to the Dubs. My main concern was age and injury history. Like those are my only two drawbacks. When there were even rumors about Jimmy coming to the Dubs, even going back to last offseason, I was like, I don't necessarily dislike bringing in a player with his skill set because it's something the Warriors don't have. My only thing was just what's it going to be like in the locker room? Because like I said, the whole, I don't like what he did with Miami and then the age and injury history. But if he stays healthy, I mean, he has to stay healthy. So I think that's another factor.
And here's the thing. It usually takes him a couple of years to kind of blow a gasket and one out of town. And at that point, his contract's going to be coming up. Like this is kind of the perfect ending spot to a career to where you can come in and try to win an NBA championship. So it's beautiful. And the Warriors still playing beyond meaningful basketball. They're up 1-0 in the series. Kolsky, when it comes to Butler for I'll say this. We've both been right. We've both been wrong many times on this show. We've had our fair, amounts of good takes and bad takes. And one of the best takes that you had compared to me was you were all on board with Jimmy Butler from the get-go. I was just like, I don't know. He's older. He hasn't really played consistent basketball in a minute now. We don't know if playoff Jimmy can still be activated at this age. And you said when I brought up the fact that they were swapping out Wiggins' 18 a night for Jimmy Butler's 18 a night, you said, dude, it goes a lot deeper than that. And we're seeing it real time, man. He is truly an incredible basketball player. Like, he is just fun to watch, man.
Yeah, no, he's a special guy, and he Kylan mentioned it early on as a Bull. You could see like he just was not a normal. He was practically a second rounder. I think the very last pick of the first round.
Yep.
And there was no expectation. I mean, I still kind of followed college basketball at that point, and I barely knew who he was coming out of Marquette.
Yep.
But you saw immediately he just had like something about him. And back then he would have huge dunks. That was actually the way you noticed him the most the first couple seasons, because he was much more explosive, obviously, than he is at 36 or whatever he is now. But he has always thought the game on a higher level than almost everybody else. And that actually, the biggest thing to me, the thing I feel most gratified about with the Butler deal in terms of knowing what was going to happen, was this idea that everyone had of him and Draymond being like two volatile guys that don't get along, was completely misunderstanding both guys. They just, because they're the same. They're the same. They're two guys. And it is, I mean, there are so few people in the NBA who truly don't care about their statistics. Just really don't care. And Butler wasn't even like that a few years ago, right? Like, but Jimmy Butler at this stage and Draymond Green, the way they see the floor better than almost everyone in the league, their specific motivations at this stage of their career, like, it was the most obvious fit to me. And that really has come true more than anything about Butler showing up here. And I think he shows you over the last three, when the chips are down, there's not a lot of guys you'd rather have on your side. And by the way, check his 3-point percentage, because he's shooting about 50% from three since like 10 games left in the season. The guy he gets it. Basketball is a very easy game to Jimmy Butler, and there's not a lot of guys like that.
I also feel like he's added that dog, like his grittiness to me, and the mentality. Just as Kolsky was talking, I was kind of thinking that also is something that the Dubs don't miss. I think the high basketball IQ makes him a great fit, because it's not easy for a lot of players to step into this Warriors motion, read and react and type of stuff. And I just think because he's so smart, he deserves a ton of credit for fitting right in. And then also, I don't know, man, there's just something different about his mentality. And I think you saw that early. And like I said, it's just something about the grit, something about the dog in him. Like, he's the player who wants the ball in his hands at the end of games, and he's going to take you one-on-one. He's going to get the shot off. He's going to get the stop defensively. He's going to be disruptive. He's going to chase down the loose ball. I feel like the Warriors needed that edge. And they got that edge. And instead, you got a guy like JK. Sorry, I'm bringing up JK again. But, someone who's going to be on the bench with their head down because they didn't play. I do think there's something to be said for mentality of guys that you bring in. And, Kolsky's right in that there was concern about having someone who's too volatile like Draymond Green. I think it's the opposite. You need someone else who's going to fire your team up. And I think that Jimmy brings some of that Dre has as well. But I think this team needed more of.
He's been awesome. Second quarter, Warriors were awesome. Let's get into that. Kolsky, you saved that thought for the other side. Write it down in case you're going to forget it. This is Locked on Warriors. I know you want to say what you want to say, Kolsky. We'll get into it coming up.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
All right, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. The NBA playoffs are almost here. They're not almost here. They are here. Update the copy. And FanDuel's giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel, place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Go ahead and do it. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy. You can pick your favorite team. You can dive into player props, 3-game parlays, 4-game parlays, 5-game parlays, 6-game parlays. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. The Warriors were getting 1.5 points in this game. I have not done this in so long. Keep your points, Vegas. America's #1 sports book. It's FanDuel.
And most importantly, he a dog.
We need more dogs.
Oh, I'm not going to lie. My hands kind of hurt from those claps. That was intense. Kolsky, you were holding on to something that you really wanted to talk about before the break. What do you have for me?
Yeah, well, somebody in the chat, here we go. Skid Marks, great name. So, okay, this is interesting to me. Jimmy is not better than KD, if we're just talking
Objectively, basketball-wise.
All things being equal. But given the history and given who Kevin Durant is as a teammate and personality, I'm not so sure that they would have had the same run if they make the KD trade. Because it's not like, look, in the KD trade, first of all, they have to give up more, right? Now, if that more is only Jonathan Kaminga, it doesn't turn out to matter that much. But if that more was also, pods, that would have mattered. KD, clearly an easier scorer than Jimmy, does more things offensively than Jimmy, but he's not bringing any of that edge that Kylan is talking about from like a personality standpoint. He brings an edge from basketball. He's one of the most incredible scorers we've ever seen. He can play defense too. Don't sell him short on the defensive end, but he doesn't change the room like Jimmy does. In fact, Kevin, he wants to change the room as little as possible for a guy who's as good as he is, He'd almost rather just come in, score 25 on 50% shooting and not talk to anybody. And the Warriors didn't need that. They needed somebody to shake things up. Like, they were dead in the water. They were under 500 when they made the deal. And I do think Jimmy's personality and the fact that, he wants a microphone in front of him after every game, and he's coaching the young guys on the team visibly on the court. Katie's not that guy, and I think that sort of special sauce was part of what happened with this Warriors team this year.
Kylan, seeing what you saw.
KD also isn't a guy who's going to be okay being a number two or deferring to Steph. And we saw that when he was on the team. And I think what works with Jimmy is something Kolsky pointed out earlier, is some of the selflessness. And that I don't think he cares about what's in the box score. I really don't. I think he's a dog and a competitor in that way, in where if the Warriors are winning basketball games, he's good. And he's good with deferring to Steph. And he's referring to himself as the Robin to the Batman. You know what I mean? And I think that's also important culturally too, because again, it worked with KD and Steph because Steph is such a humble basketball player. But I just think this season, with the way things are rolling, it just made sense to bring in Jimmy. Jimmy's a clear number two to Steph. There's no, power dynamic, too many, guys who both need the ball in their hands all the time. I just think it works.
I don't like the term Robin, though, because Robin's only in a quarter of the movies. He's a failed circus member.
Not a Chris O'Donnell fan? You don't.
Superman's probably too much of a stretch. I mean, maybe we just go with the Alfred. He's the steady. He's always there for Batman.
Did you just demote Robin below Alfred?
Yeah. What?
Alfred is important, man. Come on now. You got to have Alfred.
He could have been. He got Wonder Woman's better than Alfred. What are we doing here?
Captain America. Look, he's awesome. Jimmy Butler is outstanding. The question is, with this Warriors team, if they are going to seriously compete for an NBA championship, where can they get the rest of their offense? We know this team is built defensively, and that's what the Butler trade is really, I don't want to say necessarily helped with, because Wiggins was so damn good defensively, but the numbers back it up that, they're a top 3 defense in the NBA since his arrival. That is not by mistake. And they were a top 10 defense with Wiggins too. So it's been their identity regardless. But the question's going to be, because they had 95 points against Houston today. That's a disgusting basketball game offensively, especially when you shoot at 47%, 37% from 3. But they did turn it over a little too many times in the game today for your liking. But that being said, Pods 14, Moody 7, Santos had 5, Peyton had 7, Buddy Hield had 2 off the bench. Where are they going to go down the stretch? If for some reason Butler or Curry is in foul trouble, they have to miss a game, something along these lines happen. That to me is what scares me about this Warriors team. Do they have enough to beat the best teams in the NBA? And the Rockets have been one of the best teams in the NBA over the past couple months, and the second best team in the West throughout the course of the season. They proved that they could beat them tonight. But when we're talking Thunder, when we're talking Lakers / Nuggets / whoever it may be, can you beat them getting 14 points from your bench, only getting 2 points from Buddy Hield, getting a 0 from Quentin Post? Like, can you beat these teams, or are we going to have to get 26-point pods again, Kolsky?
Yeah, no, and yes. You can't beat those teams with what you had tonight, and you will need not just pods, but I mean, look, this was if not an A+, like minimum A- from the Jimmy Steph combo tonight, right? They both played quite well. I guess 56, maybe 60 is the like A performance. So I'll give them an A- in terms of scoring. Nobody else was close to that. Pods, yeah, he had 14, but this was not a good offensive night. He didn't look super comfortable. Moody barely shot the ball, and the three-pointer has been missing for kind of a while. Post 0 for 3, Buddy 1 for 4. The other guys off the bench are just not offensive players. And, I mean, the reality of their situation right now is that they don't have a lot of players on the floor over the course of the game that are an offensive threat.
Amen.
If you are playing Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, and Gary Payton, then Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody, and Buddy Hield better score the ball, because those other guys are really not going to do it more often than not. And, that, again, not to go down the ugly road again, but, like, I just think they need more offense. Maybe not to beat Houston, probably not to beat Houston after what we saw tonight, but certainly to compete with Oklahoma City, and probably against Minnesota or LA, whoever they would face if they do beat Houston.
Butler plays 42 minutes. Steph Curry plays 40. The good news, these guys are going to get some rest. We will tip things off for game 2 Wednesday, the 23rd of April. Hopefully we can get another 3-man weave in. For Matt Kolsky, Kylan Mills, Chuck Walter, this is Locked On Warriors. Subscribe to the show for the playoff push. We are here live after every single game. Peace.
1-0, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.